Eid Mubarak, everyone. May Allah accept our du'as and forgive us for our sins. I hope everyone is doing well. Today I'll be going over a sensitive topic. Let's see. So what I want to say is that this particular broadcast, this is not medical advice. Seek your local physician if you, seek a licensed physician. Welcome, my new subscribers. I appreciate you all who have supported my channel, those that have liked my videos, disliked the videos, those that are watching the videos and sharing them. I appreciate you. So thank you. Let's see what I want to talk about first. Let's see what I got. Okay. So I'm going to go over a sensitive topic, and it's about weight loss, or either not just weight loss, but basically how your weight affects your love life or trying to date someone. Man, it's a little warm in here. I don't know if it was because I just took a shower with it. It's feel like it's warm. And the funniest thing, while I came up with this video about weight loss, I know some people are going to say, well, that sounds like a hypocrite, or he's, whatever, right? So as I was coming up with this topic, because this topic was inspired by this young lady over on Facebook a couple of weeks ago. I had a little back and forth with a young lady, and me personally, I don't like to go back and forth with people, because I don't like to give people my energy that if it's in a negative light, right? But there are times to where when dealing with men and women, I tend to not let anybody play with me, right? And I could tell that this individual seemed as if, I don't know if it was trying to get underneath my skin or irritate me. But as I was coming up with this particular topic, just thinking about ways that I could be creative coming up with this broadcast. Well, I went to a friend's house the other day, and as I'm trying to come up with good content, because, being a content creator, it's a lot of work that goes into content creation. So I commend those that are doing it themselves, to where you have to, be your own producer, editor, scenographer, taking, the camera and all that other stuff, and editor. What else do you have to do? You have to dress nice, whatever, but I guess some people don't care about that. But so it's a lot of work that goes into content creation. Well, as I was coming up with this particular topic, I noticed I went to a friend of my house, and I'm eating, as I'm about to leave, I was like, okay, he always keeps snacks or whatever at his house, and I don't really keep snacks in my house. So eventually he offered me some cookies, some chocolate chip cookies from Costco. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to say no. So of course it's brand new, and he's over. I'm like, cookies, this is good. And I've had them before. So eventually I was like, let me just get a couple. So I took 5. And I was like, well, I eat 2 when I get home. And no, that didn't happen. It was like, so good. I ate all 5. And then later on in the week, as I'm still trying to make notes throughout the week, put some things in my script that will, give value, but at the same time be a little entertaining. Of course, I go out and, I saw this little ad on YouTube for the new Domino's pizza. So of course, Domino's doesn't have the, what do you call it? this is their first stuffed crust pizza. And I'm like, dang. I was amazed how good that pizza was. But I ordered the pizza, and this was like a couple days ago. But remember, I could do that because I worked out 4 times this week. I was fasting for Ramadan. So not just that, I worked out last night and turned around like about 7 o'clock, and then turned around again and worked out again 4 o'clock this morning. See, I'm your tribal chief. I could do that. I can do that. Okay. So before anybody got something to say about, oh, how is he talking about losing weight, but he, eating cookies and pizza. That was more like my my cheat meal. Like, The Rock from WWE, the People's Champion. So just like him, it's like, okay, you discipline yourself to eat healthy through the week, but then hopefully on the weekend, so you don't feel depressed or something, or wherever it is, like you're neglecting yourself or depriving yourself from eating good food that most people like. You have to have a cheat day. So just like with him, I think he does like pancakes and a sleeve of sushi. So there's sometimes to where maybe I want to say probably every about almost 2 months or so, I'll have a high carb day, and I do that with pizza. But other than that, I don't really eat like a lot of high carbs. So that's that. Now getting to this topic, there's a young lady a couple of weeks ago. I don't like social media. I don't like being on Facebook, Instagram, and all that stuff. I don't even think I have the Instagram, but I'm not on it. And as I say, I've been just using these platforms to put my 1 second. I've been using these platforms just so that I could put my content on these different social media platforms to where I could get my information out, to the public. We have 8 billion people in the world, so hopefully I can get a good bit of subscribers, and so that I could give value through my content. Not only giving value, but hopefully it helps me in some way. That I'm giving value, and hopefully I get something out of it as well. Even though I'll feel good about it, just helping somebody, right? So I saw a video of this individual posted on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, and the video had someone put a picture of steak. There's a steak and eggs on a plate, and they said that this is one of the best meals to eat. And I thought about it, and I was like, okay, this thing could be. It is a good meal, but then I was like, well, even though it's good, I was like, wait a minute. I thought about when I went to the doctor a couple of years ago, and I had my health checkup because I do a regular physical every year. And I think more men should go in to get their health checkup, even though they might look fit and eating healthy, right? So I went to the doctor. I'm thinking everything's fine. So one of the things was like, oh, well, your cholesterol level, right? Everything else fine, just your cholesterol is a little high. So the physician assistant, she thought that I was about to have a heart attack or something. So she was like, oh, we need to get you in and schedule you for an emergency CT scan. So I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And basically what she was telling me that, what is that? They need to check me for hyperlipidemia, which is high levels of fat in the blood. So I was like, that was kind of shocking, because I was like, okay, I was eating healthy, and my diet mostly consists of just high protein. So I was doing yogurt, high protein Greek yogurt. I was eating steak. eggs, eating different types of crab meat and so forth, right? And I was like, okay, I'm eating good, and and vegetables and whatnot, and fruits. And I thought I was fine. Well, apparently, looking at my lab work, my blood work, thought it was a problem. So now when I see that, so then I eventually did let me finish with this. So I did the CT scan, and usually it would take 9 months before I would get a doctor's appointment, but no, they wanted me in for emergency. So I was like, dang, what is going on? And it's like, we need to check you. So eventually I was like, okay. So everything came back normal, mashallah. So I'm healthy. So the heart size was normal, no calcium buildup or plaque around my heart, heart normal shape, no tissue abnormalities, no disease formations around my heart or anything. So I was like, okay, this is good. Thank God, mashallah. And so I saw this picture of this steak and egg, and I was like, well, wait a minute, that's not healthy, right? And so this young lady, she responds and she comes on that same post and then commented. And I noticed the young lady, she eventually got the post, but I was like, how's she on this post? And I was like, okay, well, I see how. It's like and I noticed that she was a friend on my Facebook page. And I was like, okay, that's, so-and-so. Because I remember her from, so I used to be in a Facebook group, and she's basically friends of friends. But I don't really call people friends, but just in that group, she was friends of friends, right? For, to keep things simple. So she kept going back and forth with me about how it's healthy, how she eats it. I can't remember if she said she ate it a couple of times a week or once a week all the time. And I was like, okay. So now it's almost like she was starting to get underneath my skin and going back and forth. And I was like, well, you know what? One thing I don't do is keep going back and forth with people, right? If you say the damn sky green and I say it's blue, or if I say grass green and you try to tell me it's yellow, then I'm just like, whatever, right? So she just thinking, I was like, why? I said, you know what? And I just went on Facebook just to keep posting my content, right? But just like they say, I've noticed that whenever you are trying to be successful, it's not like your family or your so-called friends are going to be the one to support you. More than likely, it's going to be strangers. Just like I can look at my analytics and I can say, okay, well, there's a lot of people in Africa that support me. People in Senegal, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, what else? And then you have people in Asia, like people in Pakistan support me, people in Bangladesh and India support me, and the US supports me a little, but I noticed that one thing, it's like, as far as watching my videos, it's like the attention span, it's like they could only watch for like 30 seconds or a minute. Well, others continue to watch it a little bit longer in other countries. But it is what it is. I'm just speaking about that. So eventually, so the young lady was going back and forth with me. So I was like, okay, well, what's your dress size, right? So when I asked her what's her dress size, she says, I'm a size 16. So I was like, okay. And so she was like, well, what is that supposed to mean? Why did you ask me that? And I said, I just wanted to see something, I said, because she kept asking me and telling me that steak and eggs is healthy. And I'm just trying to say, okay, well, that's not good for your overall health. But I realized it's like you can't tell people things that may be beneficial to them when it comes to their health, because they're just going to, well, at least in the US, they're just going to think of it as you coming off negative when you're trying to tell them something for their own good. right? Let's see. So I understand that talking about weight is a different, sensitive discussion for both men and women. Um, it had me thinking of how some women in the U.S. particularly think a man should just be okay with wanting women that are close to 200 pounds uh, and just be okay with it, right? And it's like you see a lot of women, they're wearing tight clothing and looking like the Michelin tire man. And I know some people look at, oh, if you go Google Michelin tire man, you see what that is. And I have to say it's dark for a lot because I'm not trying to be mean, but of course I have to, have a little bit of fun, right? And my thing is, I'm kind and I'm a loving person, but if you want to joke and you want to play around, we can take it there. I do not mind. But what I do is I try to, treat people how I want to be treated, but at the same time, if you're going to act out, then sometimes I might engage. Sometimes I just choose not to give the energy to. So that was one of those situations, but it had me thinking. This situation also had me thinking about. I remember one day when I was at work, there was these two. I'm gonna just say heavy set because they looked like they were over 200 pounds. These two girls, they came up to me and they said, "Hey, Elliot, would you date a big woman?" And I say, "If I'm not big, why would I date a woman bigger than me?" You know? And I could tell that one of the girl probably was attracted to me, but I was like, no, I was like, why would I want something like that? If I work out and try to work on myself and my body, why would I want someone that's out of shape? And she just couldn't understand it. So she was like, well, I said, I will say that I've met and I've seen some beautiful, attractive looking women, attractive in the face, but of course, I've seen to where they could look attractive in the face, but they're big. And so I'm telling the young lady this, and then they began, getting upset with me about it. And I was like, wait a minute, you're getting upset with me because of my preference, that just because I, try to make sure I'm in the gym and eat healthy, and you think that I should just accept a woman that's 200 pounds, and now you're getting upset with me, and then one of the young girls, she's like, "Oh, I got thyroid," and I said, "Okay, now you bringing up excuses, but because neither in that did you say you was going to the gym and working out and trying, you just basically said, oh, I got this and I got this medical issue, and I was like, okay, are you in the gym?" And that was a no. So one of the young ladies, she says to me, she was talking to her friend, but she's like, "Girl, I should slap his iPad out his damn hand." And I say, "So wait a minute." I say, "I thought we were okay." I said, "Y'all came up to me asking me a question, and I thought I was being kind by answering that." So this just tells you the mindset of some women. And in them doing that, now I'm still, so eventually to avoid anything, I just walked away. Now, I'm not perfect. So, of course, there are times to where somebody says something to me, then I'll go off and, choose not to engage, and I'm not going to go back and forth with a woman, and all this stuff like that. So I just walked off. And so it got me into thinking. So I'm thinking and I'm joking later on. And I said, what this makes me think of? There was a show and called Swamp People. And you can go on YouTube and Google this, right? You can go on YouTube and Google this. Well, you go Google and YouTube this, and you'll see that if you look at Swamp People, what they do is this family, they're taking out they're going to catch alligators, and they're using a piece of string, a thin little piece of string. Of course, it's tough, but they're taking a piece of string, tying a ribbon to it, and tying it to a tree, tying it up to a tree, and then put some bait on it and put it in the water, hoping that they would catch an alligator. so, so eventually, see, now I'll be getting ignorant. So since so eventually they tie the string to the tree, then it leave, and they'll just go tie multiple, then they'll come back and hope that an alligator is on that line. So when I ever see somebody come off like they're disrespecting me and stuff like that, then I think about things later and goes through my mind. I'm human. So eventually I thought about Troy Landry, he's the dad, and he'll say, whenever they know they got an alligator on the line, said, "We got a tree shaker, baby." Said, "We got a tree shaker, baby." And I just laugh about that. So because I was correlating a big alligator to these, heavy women that, came up to me and tried to date me, but insulted me and tried to damage my iPad. I was like, what in the world? So I was just like, you know what? Even though I try to live right and do better, like sometimes you just, so, because they were just getting mad at me because of my preference in women. Men are visual, physical attraction comes first for us. For most people, us men need to stay in shape and, get our overall health checkups. Just like some people look at me and they'll say, "Oh, you look nice," or that's a nice suit. And it's not the suit, it's the fitness, staying in shape. It's not so much the suit. Now, even though when I buy a suit, I take it to my seamstress and get it tailored to fit me, So of course, that helps, but of course you need to be in good shape if you really want to look nice in your suit. I think part of the problem is we have a lot of people lying to each other about their weight, in fear of, probably, well, not probably, but in fear of hurting the other person's feelings and so forth. But I tend to think it's just like, okay, I would rather at least tell you the truth than to lie to somebody, that's just me. Like in the U.S., the average woman in the U.S., according to the CDC, the Centers for Disease and Control Prevention, the average weight for women in the U.S. is 170 pounds, and men, it's 190 pounds. In Europe, the average weight for women is 67 kilograms, which is 147 pounds. In Asia, the average weight for men and women is about 57 kilograms, 127 pounds. Just like for me, when I started my self-improvement journey in 2021, I began to attract better quality people. I was becoming financially fit and mentally fit. Not just that, my taste in women changed. I, noticed that depending on a woman's height and weight, and if this woman wore about 110 to 120 pounds, that's very attractive. That's fine for me. And I don't know if it had something to do as I began to make more money, the quality and taste of the women change, and I think it has something to do with that because you hear more people that say, okay, once some people started, men particularly, it's like once men start making more money, they get more attractive, better looking women. I guess a good example of that would be some of these music artists and some of these professional athletes, because I don't think they could get the women they could if they didn't have those resources. The other thing I noticed is that women care about the opinions of other women. They can influence one another. It's like you can go online and you see that there's multiple women. Now, I don't like, sometimes I wonder what they're doing when it's one thing to say, okay, you look cute, you look nice, but they're basically advertising when they put so many pictures of showing their body, their chests, their butts, and so forth. And I get that. Even some of the most respectful, sweet, caring women, they still care about their butt and their chest, they'll ask their significant other, what do you think about it, right? And me personally, I would say, okay, yes, that looks nice, but at some point, men, we do ask ourselves, okay, what is there mentally that this woman could bring me? And most men want peace from women, right? Like, okay, yes, the physical attractiveness, and yeah, you might have a nice body, but what else are you willing to bring as far as asset to a man? Could you teach me something? Well, most men don't want to be taught, so, well, when I say teach, I'm saying it as if I'm dating Muslim women. I want a Muslim woman to teach me more about some things that I might have missed about Islam, So when I say teach in that sense, right? That's what I'm thinking about. But I noticed that, you go online, you see these women in these workout clothing, advertising their bodies, and then not only that, it's like everybody's wearing New Balance. What else they doing? Tight yoga clothes, going out, showing I don't know. And just like I noticed this new trend that I've been seeing women wear. What is that thing? Like they'll have like the little what's that thing? What are pants called? They'll have these little Daisy Dukes pants, tied up little shorts, and they're showing their butt cheeks. And I'm like, now I get that some men might find that nice or whatever, but the more that they continue to wear less, the more I'm thinking I prefer a woman that respects herself and that is in a nice abaya or so, right? Not just that, even for me, I would prefer a woman that is practicing Islam and that is that includes doing her Ramadan fast. Not to say, oh, well, she's a Muslim, but she isn't doing her fast or so, right? Because I understand that women don't have to do it, because of if if they're sick or the menstrual cycle, I get it. But I would say at least try to start. And then when you start feeling like that, just make the days up or so, right? Or either just get back into it, you know. And I would also say for the Muslim community that's watching this, I know we're talking about, trying to date someone and you going off physical attractiveness and want to be with someone. Well, the other thing is you should choose someone that you know that your parents and or your relatives will approve of. Just like the young lady I mentioned in the last broadcast, like when I took her and her sister out to the sushi restaurant, and we had a nice time, and she basically was telling me, Muslim woman, she basically was telling me, she said, okay, which the one I was dating was 21, her sister was 30. So the sister, she said, hey, I hope that you have the intentions to marry my sister and you agree this isn't going to take more than 6 months. I said, oh, that's no problem. 6 months is fine, no problem. So it was funny because I was surprised she said that. I was like, okay, this girl gets it. She understands that, okay, yeah, you like someone and yeah, they're nice and they look whatever, but have clear intentions when you're dating. And that's what we Muslims need to keep in mind, right? And yeah, so go with that. So I mentioned Ramadan, and I like it because it shows discipline. So when I see someone out of shape, I tend to think in some ways it shows lack of discipline, just like I went to Pizza Hut. Now, even though the two gentlemen, they were very respectful. You could look at them and tell these guys were probably like 270 easy, right? 270 pounds easy. And very nice gentlemen, but of course, my thinking was like, okay, it shows lack of discipline, right? It's like when I think of that, I think of if they lack of discipline over here in their physical health, then possibly there's lack of discipline in your finances, your personal development, lack of discipline in, spirituality, lack of discipline in community involvement, and lack of discipline in your relationships when I see someone that's out of shape. Right? So there's benefits to fasting. When you fast for 18 hours, and I say 18 because usually if you make sure you do suhoor, making sure that you wake up before the first prayer during Ramadan, and even though I'm going over this and given like a Muslim perspective of what we do, I'm pretty sure this can help non-Muslims to say, okay, well, fasting is good and it has good health benefits. But there are times that I've forgotten to have my suhoor, right? And that just means my meal before prayer, right? My first prayer, or so during Ramadan. So fasting improves your cognitive function, improves your focus, your memory, your sleep pattern, and improves your mood. You could also take small steps by reducing your calorie intake, removing sweets, high carbs, and sugary drinks that increase your blood sugar. Like, I was having a conversation last night with a gentleman, and I went to the gym when I was in the gym last night, and he was basically, he saw me. Uh, I had already worked out, and I went to the treadmill. And then I came back, and then I was about to lift more weights. So he saw that I had the bench press and I had the chains on. And he's like, "Wow, you doing this too?" I was like, "Yeah, man." So he's like, "Wow." So we just started talking about health, lifting weights and stuff, and diet. So then we got on the subject of uh, how in different countries that the quality of food is better in other countries than in the U.S. And he had mentioned to me that his wife was from Italy. His wife is from Italy, and he's from here. He's from the U.S. And I told him, I said, "Oh, this, I was like, I was just in Italy less than a year and a half ago." And he tells me, he says, "Yeah," he said, "Yeah, well, I'm from, I go back and forth to Italy because we have multiple homes there." And I said, "Okay." So we ended up talking, and I said, I said, "I've been in places in Africa and parts of Asia and in Italy, and I noticed that even when I was in Italy, I had carbs, I had pasta and bread 2, sometimes 3 times, per day. And even when I got back to the U.S., I weighed the same amount. Like I didn't gain any weight, And I was like, yeah, I don't know if it had something to do with me, like being up in the mountains at times. I was in Positano and Rome and a few other places, but just me just going up in the mountains and things like that. I was like, maybe because I did a lot of things, but I didn't exercise. The only thing I did was walk back and forth to the beach or walk to like the little shops, but that was it. I didn't work out when I was in Italy. Even when, we're talking about this, he had mentioned to me, he said, yeah, he said, sometimes when my wife comes to the U.S., it's like she doesn't want to stay. She always goes back to the U.S. because she expects it to be nice and clean and so forth, right? And safe. So he's like, now she's just always over there in Italy. So she doesn't, worry about it too much. But she, he told me, said that she asked him sometimes, why do you have to dip this food in this sauce and put this with this food and so forth, right? Just for it takes it, he said, because in Italy, you'll get a plate of food and you just eat. You don't dip and put stuff with other stuff just to make it taste good. And he said maybe it's because we in the U.S. we're accustomed to those things. And I was telling him that I've noticed, like in some of the drinks, even though now in the U.S. they have a lot of drinks to where it's like 0 sugar. But I was telling him that when I'm outside the U.S., even when I see drinks that could have sugar in it, it's still less sugar than with the U.S. But the U.S. knows that people like sugar, so they'll just put those added sugar in there because people will consume and continue to buy those products. But I imagine now that you're seeing that there is a market for people that want 0 sugar drinks, and that's me. But I noticed that about living outside the U.S., the quality of food is better. Even like there's like even if you go to Burger King or McDonald's or a lot of people not really support McDonald's these days. But when you go to some of these restaurants, like fast food, it's like a whole better, much better, much better quality than what you would get in the U.S. So I just wanted to basically talk about some of the things that people need to understand or not take everything in a negative light when it comes to weight, because This could help boost your self-esteem, your self-confidence. You feel good about yourself. It helps when you working out and things like that. Eating healthy is good for your brain. So I remember a study like years ago. It said that they did like a brain study on people that live long, so like 90 plus years old. They noticed one of the things when they did these studies is that they could tell that these people had an active lifestyle. They were lifting weights. So I noticed, especially in the Black community, of course, in the white community as well, we have to do better and focus more on our overall health and fitness. Just like in the U.S., according to the U.S. World News and Report, the number one cause of death in the U.S. is cardiovascular disease. And not just that, inside possibly the top 8 or the top 10, another cause of death would be diabetes. So we have to watch what we're putting in our body. But not only, focusing on this, you need to think about how it affects your relationships. Just imagine a woman, if she's married and she gets pregnant and she gains from 25 to 35 pounds during her pregnancy. Well, some women end up gaining more. And now all of a sudden she doesn't work out. And who knows if she feels good about herself at this time that she's gained weight. But not only that, she's probably wondering what her partner thinks about her as well. And that's some of the tough discussions people don't want to talk about. They just rather just keep going about their days. But even for me, just like I said, I would want to select someone that I know that is healthy, in good shape, eating healthy foods in good shape. Even for me, Muslim women have to be practicing Islam. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I'm glad, hopefully this seemed, to be brief, so I'm thankful for that. Hopefully this video could help some people that are wanting to understand, not understand, or open to listening to this from a man, because I know most women think, but I'm pretty sure us men, we don't mind taking some type of constructive criticism from other men at times. But I appreciate you all that have been watching my videos, sharing them. Like I said, I know who my supporters are, so I wholeheartedly appreciate you all. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week ahead. And I thank you for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.